Welcome back to the workshop series, or the Dave's Diary series. And I'm just wandering around having a look at the place. Lovely morning, it really is. It's if the whole day was like this, it would be great. Nice temperature, 21, 22 degrees. Bit of a breeze has just crept up, but it is still warm. It's not always the case in Christchurch where I live. It can be a little bit mixed. Warm temperature, chilly breeze. But today, lovely. Back out in the workshop, and I've finished clamping up the clashing strips, or gluing the clashing strips on the vertical panels. And I've been mulling over if I do more of this, which is highly unlikely. Once I finish the items in the workshop, that might be my clashing requirement, or allocation at least, for quite some time. Probably will do a few other small things, but we'll see. So the need for me to gear up to clamp these sorts of, in this sort of situation, is very low, or limited at least. But it doesn't stop me from contemplating, if I were to clamp up some things, what would I then use? And I keep on coming back to this little thing I've talked about several times, and that's what I've just been calling a clamp extender, which it kind of literally, that's all it does. It extends the clamp length. And the use of the lighter type of clamp, one that I've used in this situation here, I contemplate that rather than purchasing the longer, heavier, stronger clamps. Now, they are way more suitable if you're clamping up timber, sections of timber. Whereas what I am is, I'm just clamping up clashing strips with this for this job. My clashing requirements is limited. As I've been saying, I'm not going to probably be doing a lot of this sort of work at all in the future. In fact, I don't want to do too much of this. However, if I were to make some use of the materials I've got and make up some more of these, I'd probably make up one that's a little bit shorter and a little bit longer. I could do that now, pop them up on the shelf, they'll be out of the way, won't take up a lot of room, and on the rare occasion that I need them, they're there. Rather than buy a lot more of the clamps for that purpose. Now, I may do that for a different purpose, and that'll be fine, but this one, not so much. And I find that particularly fiddly. I would be way better off just using an iron-on type, heat-applied edge banding. In fact, that's something I'm looking at anyway. I've got a little bit of it, I can do it, and I probably will. But I'm down this path at the moment. But the more I do these sorts of jobs, the more experience I'm gaining, and I freely admit that this is not really my area of focus or interest, or for the future. But one of the things I was looking at, and why I keep on coming back to this, as simple and ugly as it looks, it works particularly well. And one of the things, when I was wandering around just before, and I looked at it and going, oh, hang on, these sash, the quick grip type of clamp, it's on an angle. Putting the head where the pressure is also at an angle, and could be pressuring the clashing strip. Hopefully, the pads, the felt pads that I've got there, are kind of mitigating some of that. But then I could just lift the clamp up a little bit to be perfectly fair, and I probably will. But I don't need to for that, because that does everything I want. It extends the length of the clamp, meaning I can use smaller, lesser clamps to achieve a really good end, the finish, or how it functions. It also means that the bar of the clamp itself is laying level with the panel by way of the way it's constructed, and therefore the head is also 90 degrees to the part where you're clamping up, in this case the clashing strip. It's also elevated the bar up off the surface so that I can get underneath, like I've got here, so I can get underneath and clean the glue squeeze out away, so I don't have to contend with that later on. So that's great. One of the things is this is melamine. It's very likely a closed cell component, and as such doesn't take glue all that easily. The custom wood does, but not the melamine, and that's the point of this video. Yeah, I know there is actually one, but I clear it off thinking that I don't want the glue on the panel because it could be a real pain in the neck. But if it's a closed cell, or if it's not going to absorb the glue, it will probably scrape off quite easily. Very different for if you're using wood or proper real stuff, wood or plywood. That's a whole different kettle of fish. But this maybe not. And why that came to my attention was I tried to glue a couple of little small pieces of the, in fact I've thrown it out already. Is this bit here? No, wherever it is. I've thrown it out because I've glued them up to see what the panels would be like when I glue them together, and it didn't. There's probably the suction of the two surfaces being held together by a bit of a viscous substance, i.e. the glue, but the glue wasn't able to be absorbed and, I'm going to say, you catalyze, but harden on the two surfaces. And I put them for 24 hours and thought I couldn't pull them apart, and then they kind of started to. So I cut a piece off in the miter saw, and it was very easy to separate, and the glue was still liquid, still wasn't dry. So I left them again for another 24 hours, just sitting on the bench just to see. Came out this morning, same thing. You just move the two small pieces apart, and therefore not good. So the PVA glue, the aliphatic PVA glue that I'm using, isn't suitable for that particular use. Now, there may be other types of glue that I've got a Weld Bond brand up there that says it can glue glass. Now, is that glass to glass or glass to metal, or etc., or is it to another surface? Because the catalyzing whatever function may be compromised if it's two impervious surfaces. So, don't know, but that one there is also expensive, but probably the reason why. But that glue, the Weld Bond brand, is, in fact, I'll have... look, we won't worry about it yet because it's not the issue. The issue is I want to create laminated panels out of the melamine, and the correct glue is kind of mandatory if I want to rely on the glue. The question is, the thought is, can I give it a real hard sand with a very coarse sandpaper, break the surface, and then will the glue have enough chance to harden and adhere together well? I prefer to do that. I prefer to glue it than try and screw it all together. And the other option is don't worry too much and just pop a couple of screws in it and be done with. That may be the option. It's not satisfactory, but because it's in a situation where it's not going to be seen, nor it's not a demanding thing, perhaps I could do it. But these tops may well be drilled, and having to locate the fixing screws in positions where it's not going to get drilled for bench dog holes, that is, in some of them, that's not a really desirable thing. So it would be better to find a glue, an adhesive, that works well. One of the ones that I've used in the past is it's actually an adhesive sealant, and it's a Sika product, and it's my go-to adhesive glues sealant, and it's 11FC. And plumbers, I first saw plumbers using it, adhering porcelain pans down to porcelain tiles or ceramic tiles. That kind of tells you something, does it not? While two impervious surfaces being adhered together in quite an important area, I've got to say, means that it can hold and doesn't need the absorption like PVA or evaporation or however it does its thing. The downside is it's quite thick and would create not a 36mm panel thickness, but something greater than that, and getting the squiggles of glue to or adhesive consistent is problematic. Thing is, you'd probably, to be prudent, probably only need to put a couple of little beads along the outer edges, and you'd be done with, because the things aren't coming apart after that. Also, I'm not actually that to be thinking about it as I speak. I'm probably not going to be impeded by adding a mil or two, but say a mil of sealant, making the panels, like instead of 36, it might be 37 or 38. That's not the issue, but it's just not satisfied with that idea. We should be able to use a glue to achieve our end goals. Again, the weld, if it works, just a couple of spots of glue, to be fair, might be all it needs to hold together, and it can do its magic and harden up. Yeah, so just a couple of thoughts, just a bit of a what do I do for the future for my clamping efforts if I do too much more of that, or much more of that. Don't know. Oh no, I do know. I'll be certainly making more of those, and they're nice and cheap and easy to use. I actually watched, before it came out, I watched a video and I thought, that's a good way of doing it. So I saw a chap who was making a clamp that was for a track saw type rail setup, and while yes, it is good, it comes with the issues that I don't want, and that, with the combination of a cheaper it's not cheaper as in it's a lighter version of the clamp that I'd normally think about, it's actually, it's underrated if that can be used not only as a clamp itself, but in a clamp in the situation that is being used right now. They've got the clamp extenders on it, and they work really well, and it gives me everything I want. The length extension, keeping it elevated up off the panel so it can be cleaned, and parallel to the surface, making the head 90 degrees. So it's got three benefits just from that. As I said, it's a rough and ready, bit ugly looking item there, and achieves everything I want, and it's free. So, well, that's it, I suppose. Just going to wait for those to dry, and then I'm going to glue up the long ones, these four panels here, and I'll put the clashing strip around that, see how we go, and move on from there. We'll have to make a decision on that for gluing up, because that's the ones in question. These ones, well, actually these ones too, to be fair. So yeah, that's where I'm at. All good. At least we're moving forward. It was a bit of a mixed day yesterday, but quite positive for me, but not in the workshop area. So yeah. Rightio, that's it. Stop waffling. I'll wander off and I'll let you alone. Okay, see you later now. Bye.